So things have been a little hectic, and this has caused podcasts to fall by the wayside. I had attempted to record a podcast with my friend who was in town. However, things didn't really work out, both in terms of the podcast recording and also in terms of my friend being in town. So I recorded one podcast with him, and we just had problems with the mic noise. We recorded for about an hour and 40 minutes, and all the audio was unfortunately unusable. But it did enable me to explore a topic which I wanted to explore with my friend anyway, associated with collaborative effort and failed collaboration. Because historically, with this friend, he and I have worked on a few projects together, but there have been elements of sabotage, for want of a better term, that have gone through a number of these projects. And I just wanted to talk to him about it quite candidly. And in the hope of putting into podcast recording, it would enable some degree of discussion associated with a pattern that I found with people that I collaborate with, where ultimately I put in a good portion of the effort and it doesn't really amount to much. And I'm reflecting on this rather heavily, particularly because of the ongoing stuff that I'm having to do associated with the alleged comedian. Let's just put it that way. And this has caused me to actually release some music recently, or at least release some historical music on Apple Music, which has given me a clear indication that I should be producing more music going forward. Music, spoken word, some additional things, putting it up on a variety of services like Apple Music, so people can enjoy or at least leave a footnote to my creative work. Not necessarily through this podcast recording, but through my own thinking, I've been trying to explore why my collaborative efforts haven't been as successful as I would have liked up until now. And I guess the general sense that I have from doing this in a recorded fashion is that actually, for majority of the people that consume this audio, there's no notion that these collaborations are actually failures. In fact, they produce a lot of audio and a lot of interesting discussions, and a number of people have really enjoyed these audio recordings. So my general sense of these things being failures are really associated with my own cognitive dissonance, for want of a better term. I guess when I look at these things, I would have hoped that they had continued on in some organic fashion, and a number of them have continued on for an extended period of time. I reflect here on Stone Ape specifically that one can't really sneeze at the hundreds of hours of audio recording that have been put online as part of this particular venture. Reflect on the Biota podcast, similar narrative, Attic Aficionados less so, but still a good quantity of audio put online, and as many people point out to me, probably more audio than ever would have been thought humanly possible coming into these circumstances. So, in this reflection, I'm at a better sense of peace, want of a cliche in this circumstance, and I've been reflecting very heavily on what my creative efforts are going forward. Now, obviously, I have the flagship that is Model Rail Radio, continuing without question, but I'm starting to wonder if I look for collaborations for slightly the wrong reasons. That I look for collaborations in terms of long-term collaborations, and I should just be happy within myself that I've put out this audio with other people, and that it's gone on for the length of time that it has. Sadly, my friend isn't going to be staying with us for any more time. He left yesterday in very mutually agreed terms, and this leaves my podcasting room in a state where I need to not necessarily refurbish it, but at least retrofit it to return to what I was using it for. It's also made me think rather critically about a variety of the hobbies that I maintain as an homage to my former self. Having this friend here has made me reflect very heavily. Although I'm enjoying the miniature painting, I think that's probably going to come to a creative end once those folks who have miniatures that I've sent out currently get finished painting them. There's a fellow in New Jersey who I think I'll probably have an extended painting relationship with in terms of sending figures to periodically. The European folk, interesting. Worthy painters to have for short-term projects, but I think in the longer term, I'm probably getting their best work through what I'm getting currently. It's probably more advantageous to just have a few choice miniatures painted by them, as I've done up until now, and potentially send them a few in the future, but nothing, I don't know. I'm enjoying what I'm getting from them currently, but I don't think this is a long-term project. In terms of the miniatures that I have out to paint currently, I have some First World War figures that are with the folks in San Diego. Actually, they're being painted by a fellow in Colorado. And I'm just starting to reflect that maybe I should get rid of a good portion of my unpainted miniatures, pass them on probably to Legends Comics and Games down in Santa Cruz, which I think is the best game store locally that does second-hand lead, and the gentleman who runs the store I have a lot of time for. So my anticipation is that I'll go through my miniatures through the summer months and make a substantial donation to Legends Comics and Games, which I'll get back in store credit and probably make a few frivolous purchases just to conclude this process. Historically, when I lived in the UK, we did this with our DVDs. We gathered all our DVDs together. We sold them back to the local DVD store. Yes, it was a Blockbuster, ladies and gentlemen. And we took out, a dozen or so movies to spend the last of the credit money that we had gained through passing back our DVDs. So, where does this lead in the future? Well, in the short term, I'm going to be continuing to produce a lot of Noble Ape-related stuff, in particular returning to the video series. Got a few more videos to record for that. And in the medium term, I think I'm going to return to my Noble Ape development as a central thing in my general development practices. And these long funk recordings, I think, will take some meandering turns, which I want to experiment with because I have genuinely heard from listeners to this particular recording that would like to hear more recordings from me. So as a means of me putting out my interpretive philosophy, reflective thought, these kind of things, I think long funk has a purpose. Generally in these kind of junctures, particularly because I was anticipating my friend staying for a considerably longer length of time, maybe some sadness, maybe some change. The stage I'm at in my life, you just have to learn from these experiences. And actually, I've created something that is very particular, associated with my miniature collecting, associated with my audio recording, associated with my musical performance. If you listen to the music that's now available on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, all the places where you could normally consume music, if you want to search for it, search for Noble Ape. You'll find the music readily available. You might think that this collaborative friend who actually features in a lot of these musical recordings, well, it might be a bit disappointing that we didn't have the opportunity to record more audio. I think actually what happened through his time here was that I realized very quickly that I don't really have collaborators in terms of music. My hope was that Brandon DiCamillo might be a collaborator in terms of music. That fell by the wayside. I just need to be happy in myself associated with the music that I produce, package it up and release it in a piecemeal form with the view that it's very easy to get music out onto all these, sites, for want of a better term, that people pick to provide them music. I can put my music in this format very easily. That's what I'm going to continue to do. Haven't gotten a sense associated with royalties and these kind of things. I'm not really interested in that. I'm more interested in using this process as a means of getting ideas out and doing it with a sense that there was less friction actually in putting this music online than I thought it would be. So in that light, I'm certainly very mindful that it should be easy for me to put music online. And what I will do is probably 6 to 8 track EP, long EP format releases over the next few years as a means of getting out my music and also as a means of catharsis. The whole recording process and putting music online, ultimately it's a cathartic process, and you never know, I might actually generate some listeners through this thing somehow. Obviously you are a Long Funk listener. To this end, I'm certainly going to be more mindful associated with putting these recordings out. And now I don't have as many things coming up in the future to hold back my time, so I'm certainly going to double down my efforts and produce more Long Funk recordings going forward. What was interesting in my recording with my friend here was that we explored a number of topics which I haven't necessarily felt comfortable putting online up until this recording. It was, in fact, quite a curious, liberating experience to talk candidly about a variety of different things that I wouldn't normally put out in podcast form. So with that in mind, I'm going to take Long Funk in a series of quite curious directions with the view that if you, the listeners, do not enjoy it, please provide me feedback accordingly so I can tune or tailor future recordings to be more in line with what you expect. But in this light also, I'm going to start some experimental topics, put them out there, see what listeners think, and we'll take it from there. So for now, I'm in a podcasting room with a table set up, which was going to be used for wargaming. I'm probably going to put some miniatures out on it, play test the game that I'm going to be running at work, and just generally feel comfortable associated with how things have progressed. Like I said, nominally people would feel sadness at these kind of junctures, but really there's so much stuff going on currently that I've got plenty to keep my mind active. And in that light, thank you very much for being a listener, and I will endeavour to record more of these podcasts for your enjoyment.